So the official translation for the live broadcast that was done by the CEO of Super Creative, which is the director of Chaos Zero Nightmare, has officially come out. This is nothing new, it's just the same info. They kind of just translated it into English. And if you guys watched my last video, or if you have been following just any news outlet on the game, you probably know what this live broadcast was basically about. And it was pretty much just fully translated, 100%. So this is on the official Stove website, which is the official website for the game. So this is what they are saying. And I'm gonna add some stuff onto it about some of the drama things that are going on. There's a lot of drama going on behind the scenes in Korea. And, a lot of people are talking about the Owen situation, which kind of was like the spark to it, kind of based off of a meme, which also isn't a meme to some people in that community. But there's a lot more drama that goes into it, which I'm not going to address entirely, but I will mention as to why the Korean players are super upset about it. So basically, it just starts off with an intro of him apologizing. I'm not going to read it. I'll just summarize the main points that actually occurred. So the first thing he talks about is the service instability issues. So there were a lot of instability issues. In fact, if you guys actually re-rolled on day one, there was actually a bug in the system where guest accounts were getting deleted. So there were a lot of people that re-rolled and just had their accounts that they re-rolled for hours for just end up getting deleted. There also were duplicate reward distributions due to multiple logins. So I think because it's fixed now, I can probably say how it's done. I didn't do it, but I heard about it. Obviously, I wouldn't do it. I'm a creator for the game, and I'm actually an official Samool creator, so it's like, I'm not going to obviously do it. But what people did is if you logged in on the PC and the mobile client on the same account, you could duplicate your rewards you got in the mail. So people were like buying packs and getting like extra summoned and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. There also were some other things with like the prism module observation where the rates weren't correct and stuff like that. Also, people's like payments weren't going through. There was a lot of issues, which is normal, right? For a game's launch, it's not like any game. Maybe 1 out of 100 games has like a perfect launch, but every game will have launch problems. But I will say that this game's launch problems were pretty bad, especially due to the account deletions. That was pretty insane to me. I haven't really seen that in too many other games where games would have players' accounts get deleted after re-rolling, and we know the re-roll process in this game is super tedious. So a lot of the people I know that had this happen to them actually just quit right off the bat. So pretty sad. The next thing he talks about is the story concerns. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like the format of this post because it's just like main topic bolded and then like walls of text. But basically what he talks about is that this is where like the Owen drama comes into effect. And I think like the response kind of buys into it because he says that he believes game characters built deeper bonds with other characters instead of the protagonist. So the main character that's a male is Owen, right? So that's like where it all started, and people were memeing about it in Korea, and of course there were people that weren't memeing about it and were serious. But like the main issue is like, isn't really the Owen thing. It is mostly now that us as like the players, as the protagonists, just feels like a spectator that doesn't really do anything. And usually in this PvE games, a lot of people play for the story, and then I think that's where like the Owen meme got out of hand. But that's kind of what they plan to do. They want to make the protagonist, which is us, just not a spectator anymore, kind of part of the story, which is interesting. I don't know how they'll do that, but what they did say is that they are very, very determined to improve the game and make the story involve us more, which I don't really care about because I don't watch the story and I'm not really into like that 2D fantasy stuff. Some of you guys probably are, which is good for you guys, but for me personally, it's not really a big thing for me, but I know it's a big thing for a lot of players. So that is what's being tackled. Another thing is, this is like the big drama, which gets a lot into sociopolitics, and people always ask me, or I guess not always, but people were asking in the last video why I didn't talk about this as much when this is like a big issue. I am not going to talk about drama that revolves around politics, and in this case, it's like, feminism and like misogyny and stuff like that. I'm not going to talk about that on my channel because one, there are so many different perspectives on, what is right and wrong on this, because this game is global, the internet's all connected, people from the West see things different from people in the East. Not even just like a West versus East thing. People in different countries within the East or even within the West have very differing opinions. Like, you know, NA versus EU, differing opinions. China versus Korea, different opinions. And what's right or wrong, it's, I don't want to say it's like a culture thing, but it's definitely like what you've been raised to believe. So I didn't talk about it at all, and that was on purpose. But basically what happened is scenarios, writers, departures. So the main writers for the game basically left the company, right? And the reasons why, I'm not going to delve into it, but it gets pretty interesting. You guys can look it up if you want, but it's a lot about politics and stuff like that, which I don't want to talk about. Not just like company politics, like real life politics. And basically they just ended up getting cut, and the main story got completely like shafted in a way and got rushed, and that's why it feels like the story's pretty crappy, and it's like an isekai that's like super rushed and stuff like that. And yeah, that's why the story was under severe time constraints and various limitations, basically because they didn't have anyone to write it really. So that's why it was really bad. And now what they plan to do is renew the story. So they're working on fresh content, including the final part of the epilogue and trauma code. And then what they say right after that is they're going to renew the main story. This means the story is between chapter 1 to chapter 5. So stuff that people have played up to at this point is being completely reworked. They're going to do not just text revisions, they're doing full re-recordings by voice actors, and that basically means everything is getting scrapped. And they're going to do this complete renewal by the first half of next year, and the story is going to be rebuilt around the captain, which is us. We are the captain, the sole protagonist, and they're planning to do it within the next half year, I guess, or I guess maybe even a year. So for me personally, I don't really care about it as much, but what I'm worried about is if this takes this long to do this like story renewal, this is going to not like will it, but it will 100% push back like content releases, push back like banners, you know, character designs and stuff like that, because they are focusing solely on what's already out in the game to fix it. And for me as a player, I'm playing just for the gameplay. You know, obviously I do like some characters and waifus, like the animations look sick and stuff like that. But in terms of like the gameplay and stuff like that, like you might think, oh, there's no way like they push back content. The thing is, like in any company, whether it be a game company or whatever, you have to dedicate resources to stuff. And if you dedicate less resources to something, then you're gonna get less efficiency or efficacy, right? So because of that, you know, for sure this is gonna push back content, and that's like my biggest gripe with this whole situation. So I don't really know if this is good for the game, but I think they feel like it is what they have to do, because the revenue for this game for Korea is like below 10% of the entire revenue, which is absolutely terrible. So I feel like that's why they're doing this. Yeah, not really too sure how you guys feel. Just let me know in the comments down below, but let's keep going on. So the next thing they talked about is the insufficient localization quality. I feel like this part should be like how long all these like 3 points beforehand was, because this is like the biggest thing for me. It's a card game, and I did talk about this a million times when I talk about the game, but like a lot of the card text is inconsistent. I don't know what half the cards do, even if I play them multiple times. Like I still don't understand what they do exactly at this point. It's kind of like, you know, when people ask you, what does this card do? Or when people ask me, for example, I just say, well, from my experience, what I think it does. This is what you have to say, because no one really knows what it exactly does, right? Except for a very select few people that just only play that playstyle, only play that team, that deck, and stuff like that. So yeah, this is definitely being, I think, under-repped, but you know, they're changing the stuff with the localization. It's not just the text either, by the way, for the cards. It's also for like dialogue with characters when you do like affinity quests. Yeah, I mentioned one in a previous video where like Rin says in the Japanese version something about marriage, and then in like the English and Korean version it doesn't say that at all, and that was like a big issue for some players in Korea mostly. So that is what, you know, they talked about for like what they addressed from his, you know, his chair. Now in terms of like the Q&A, this was actually, I won't lie, like I think the whole situation with the drama is kind of dumb anyways, but I can understand like the viewpoints of some people. But I will say, for the live stream, some of the comments in the chat box were absolutely vile, and I felt kind of bad because the guy was trying to respond to the questions, but it's like one question for like every 50 like, you know, crazy statements about personal attacks and stuff like that. So yeah, but basically this is the Q&A that he was able to, you know, pull out from the chat box. The first one was, why does the captain's loop ability remain in the game? So the loop ability is basically like kind of like reversing time. If you play the game, at the bottom right, sometimes there's like that feature where you can like reverse your turn. That's basically what it is. But yeah, they're saying that, honestly, I don't really know too much about this because he kind of just yapped about not being able to refine the quality fully to the end. Like, I know what it's about, but I don't know what he's trying to say. But he's gonna say that he's basically saying about the story, like he's gonna make sure that we are the true protagonists in a more compelling and complete way. So what that means, I don't know. Honestly, I think this bit about the renewed storyline, he probably doesn't know either, because they probably didn't even start on it yet, or just started, so they're probably figuring it out. So I think he just kind of, you know, gave like a PR answer for this one. So yeah. Next he talks about answers the question about character shipping within the story. So yeah, this is like the big thing about the Owen thing again. People kind of asked about this and it turned into like a huge meme, I guess. But he said that the relationships between the non-protagonist characters will be minimized to ensure the captain remains the central focus. So basically, we are going to be the center of the harem, I guess. So that's good, I guess. But he says like the rush preparation of the main story was a big issue that, you know, made the protagonists not consistently stand out at the center. So basically, after they fired the team, they didn't think about it that much, which I think is just an oversight, right? Not really like a rushed preparation thing, to be honest. So there's that. Next, they talk about the differences between the Korean and global versions of the text. They just said that different text versions were not properly unified. I honestly feel like this is just like putting it in a translator and it wasn't like refined because like, you know, it just doesn't make sense how that's even possible if you have like a real team working on it that is fluent in both languages. So that is what he talks about. Affinity levels are difficult to raise. Yes, this is like the worst part of the game. I don't know if you guys know, I'll make a separate video, but after you get your affinity level 10 for that one growth guide, you have to get it to level 15, and then you have to get it to level 30. Yep, it's crazy. So they say that they're distributing in the mail more rewards, but they need to like rework the system because it is terrible. It's impossible to level up. They also talk about, once again, the captain being sidelined. So, you know, I think this is why like the global players feel like, you know, the NTR thing, because there's so many questions about the captain and it's just hilarious to me. But, you know, I think like people kind of fixate on the fact that, you know, they just want the captain to be the main male protagonist and kind of just write it off as like that Owen situation thing. But I think the main point that everyone wants, even from Korean side and global side, like Japanese side, whatever, is that the protagonist needs to be more involved. I think that's like the main point of everything. So they said that, you know, once again, they will make the protagonist more central in the rework of the story. They also talked about the AI allegations. They said that there's no AI used. If there was AI used, the truth would have inevitably come to light. So I'm not really too sure if this is true, because in the day of age of like working now, you have to sign like non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. So I don't know if that's entirely true. So people accusing of the AI, they do have some compelling arguments, but they're denying it. So, you know, I don't want to say I don't care about AI in art, but I don't like examine art that in depth to notice. So yeah. Monetization model. So yeah, they said that they tried to make the monetization model 30% lower than competing games, which would make the process more approachable and player friendly. The thing is, like, the genre in general is just really predatory. So if you're 30% lower than other games, that doesn't make you not predatory, right? And the monetization model of this game follows closely to Genshin, which personally I found not to be that free to play, low spender friendly. So I don't really think that, you know, it's that much of an improvement. So they say, or they ask, how will game improvements proceed going forward? Top priority, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's typical PR answer. So, I mean, what else are you going to say, right? The big question that people were asking, though, is like, why has stuff been delayed? Honestly, I could answer this for the company because, like, it just makes sense. But he just basically says that, oh my god, it's so long. I didn't realize. But it was basically like the game has just came out. There's like, you know, bigger issues more so than like the story, which is like payment issues, account deletions, which I do agree is a bigger issue, right? If you want to appeal to the largest audience, you have to make sure people can play the game, right? I don't know if you guys have tried Duet Night Abyss on launch, but there were so many like bugs that made the game unplayable on mobile, which just dropped so many players, including myself. So I don't even play the game anymore. I played for 2 hours. I couldn't play on mobile because it's so badly optimized that I had to drop it. So I think that's what they're saying, or what he was saying when he wanted to prioritize other stuff. But he just goes on saying that he's very sad about, you know, stuff and apologizing, which, yeah, I mean, he kind of has to do because everyone's kind of targeting him with criticism from the Korean community, which, is it justified or not? You know, that's up to you to decide. You have to look into the drama more in depth on the Korean forum boards, which you can translate very easily by right-clicking and pressing Translate to English now on Chrome. So, yeah, not going to delve into it because it is very political, but that is pretty much what the official statement from the devs were. So I'm just curious what you guys think about it. Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you want to see more CZN content, because I'm kind of on the fence about stuff right now, because not even just because of like the drama and stuff, but there's some stuff in the game I think really needs fixing, which I will tackle in a separate video. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.